Okay, so I'm here with my co-host from Radio St. Pete. If you guys didn't know, we do have a podcast on Radio St. Pete. Heather Davis. Heather is a friend of mine. She's also works in. You want to tell them where you work?
I work at a hotel. Been in the hotel industry for about 30 years, and have lots of children, and keep very busy with art and, of course, our podcast.
Mm-hmm. She's also a singer. She's a really good singer. She also does a ton of art, and it's really good. And she also does some drama. Her husband is an actor, and she also does some acting too. So she's a very creative person. She's new to astrology. I'm the astrologer, but we co-host together, and she asks some really good questions because a lot of times I get to intricate, would you say?
Well, no, it's because you know so much about it, and then I have to slow it back and go, wait a minute, you're going to have to dissect that because I don't understand it.
And I talk kind of quick too.
That's
So,
all right.
But anyways, today we're going to talk about a Libra moon and a Scorpio moon. We're doing two signs in one video, and Heather has some questions. She was watching my video I did last time on the Virgo moon and how the moon is the lens with how we see the world. And, you know, and we kind of react to that lens, right? Because the moon over here in the west is our emotions, and the east is also our mind. Again, it makes sense. The mind affects the emotions. And so when we're born with a certain moon, our natural inclination, especially over here in the West, is to react a certain way emotionally. Now we're talking about the natal chart today, and I am predominantly talking about Western astrology, but I do like to mix in a little Eastern astrology too, because that's just my thing. So let's talk with the now one thing I'm gonna say is every single moon sign is very different from the next.
Okay.
So if you think about the Aries moon versus the next sign Taurus, Aries is very in your face, like, you know, I don't want to say fighting, but maybe a little more aggressive.
Confrontational, maybe?
Yeah, just like a moon conjunct Mars, whatever. But Taurus is the opposite, where it's more kind of calm, earthy, laid back. Gemini moon, very inquisitive, very like, I'm going to do a little this, I'm a little that, a little this. You know, Cancer, the next sign, very into the home, not as inquisitive, into home and family, stuff like that. Leo, big picture people, that's their moon. Virgo, details. And if you watch my last video, I talked about them being a little bit hypercritical of even themselves and other people. And that's why they get their reputation, because they see the world through the lens of a Virgo. They feel they're being criticized, and they feel like they have to be perfectionists, and therefore they look at other people the same way. So today we're going to talk about Libra. I'm going to start with Libra. What's the difference between a Libra and a Scorpio moon? There's a lot of differences. Libra is an air sign, and it is about harmony and balance. Scorpio is a water sign, and it is about intensity. So what were you asking me before?
Well, when you had touched on that particular moon, the confrontational, right? And that's Virgo?
No, that's Aries.
There is Aries. Okay, so, oh no, I'm sorry, not the confrontational, excuse me.
Critical?
The critical.
Yeah, that's Virgo.
That's Virgo, okay. What I was really kind of interested in is, you said, okay, so you lay out the chart, this is what they were born under, and what the dynamic was, whether or not they are more self-critical, and that produces them to be more critical of others, or does it run in conjunction with both, meaning that normally they're going to be critical of others and critical of themselves, or does it just one or the other?
A lot of times in early life, because that's what our natal chart really is, it's what situations are in our early life, there might have been somebody critical, or they felt like they've been criticized. So they look at life like, oh, I have to be perfect. Everything I do have to be perfect. And then they also project that onto others, and that's how they make enemies, because not everybody feels like they got to be perfect, nor does everybody want perfection. You know, it's not.
They can, and we also I asked you about that too, is that if they're preconditioned to be like that there are ways for them, if they're self-aware of that, and they know that might be kind of destructive for relationships, that they can kind of hone that in. And you had also spoken about how moons change.
Every couple days.
So in other words, and you talked about maybe the intensity of it. If they're aware of it, and they'll say, well, I can feel the intensity and the criticism and that kind of like angst coming in, that they would know how to subdue it.
If they know astrology.
Right.
This is why astrology is interesting. So, you know, for me, I like an Aquarius moon, and I just noticed this. There's a pattern with me. I like Aquarius moons. I don't know. I just vibe good with that particular. I do not
like. What is that attribute?
Well, it's more friendly, outgoing friends. You know, having a good time. I don't particularly like a Capricorn moon. It's not that I don't like the sign Capricorn. I have a moon square Saturn in my natal chart, which is a little bit of a difficult aspect. Saturn rules Capricorn. I just feel like and I'm moody.
You're moody?
I'm a little moody. So,
okay. I didn't know
so
that.
you know, when I feel like when the moon is in Capricorn, and I've noticed this from however many years I've been doing astrology now, and I'm not always trying to like pay attention because I don't want to like make myself be miserable during that time, but I just kind of feel a little bit lower, and because it's I have a natal square to Saturn.
Do Virgos typically, with being under that moon, are they more apt to be attracted to one other type of person?
Well, typically people always ask this. That's a synastry. I mean, earth signs like other earth and water, air signs like fire and other, air. But you got to look at the whole chart. No, I mean, I have met Virgo people myself, and they've been super critical, and it just doesn't work for me because I'm a big picture person. Like I like the grand finale. What am I going for? I don't need to be all into the details.
Right.
So they've hung around me.
Right.
It just doesn't normally work.
Right. So okay, yeah. So and we talked about like detail. So I know people in my life that are very detail orientated, and I'm not. I'm big picture. Details are minutia. I hate details.
Me too.
Details bore me. So I do think. But like say I am living with or have a child that is like that. How do I approach them? I mean, what are the things that I would
You gotta let people. Well, I will say this. I do like, because in the East I have Mercury and Virgo in the 12th house, which is astrology. I do like details when it's into astrology because astrology interests me. But like details as far as like, I don't like those shoes you're wearing, that kind of a thing.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with that kind of personality. Like they're just annoying to me. Yeah. But like. You gotta let people be who they are, and the thing about astrology is you look at the strengths, you look at the weaknesses, and you're like, okay, like if I had a Virgo kid, I'd be like, okay, stop being so hard on yourself, because eventually then they're gonna stop, hopefully being hard on other people or whatever, because all that does is push people away.
So it's really perception. So in other words, their perception
the lens.
Because I know, like for instance, I'm driving to work and my car breaks down, or say I get a flat tire. I look at it and go, oh, what a big hassle that is. And then you have somebody else, maybe a Virgo, who maybe sees it and goes, oh, I just can't believe it. I know they put this tire on wrong, and they're very critical, right? And then you got another guy.
And then they get so wrapped up in the details that sometimes they get nothing done.
But it's like, the perception is really what they're battling.
Right.
So in other words, changing the perception of the circumstance is really it, because the truth is you got a flat tire on the way to work. But it's the way
the bottom line.
It's the way they're looking at it, right? Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah. So the Libra moon in the West is going to be about diplomacy, balance, everybody getting along. They're going to look at the world that way. It's interesting because in the East, Libra is not in a good placement with the Sun. The Sun in Libra is considered debilitated, and the reason why is because the Sun is ruled by Leo, which is the ego, and Libra is always trying to like balance. So I think it's in the East, especially at 8 degrees, is one of the hardest degrees to deal with Libra. But over here in the West, we look at that diplomatic, and of course it depends on what's aspecting it.
So
stuff
like
that.
Peacemaker, you would think a peacemaker.
It is, and so this is a beautiful quality. Peace is always good, but here's one of their downfalls is sometimes they can be a people pleaser. Okay, and I've seen this with Virgos as well for different reasons. Virgo people pleases because basically they want everyone to think they're perfect. Libra people pleases because they want everybody to like them. Sometimes Virgo does that too. Either way, you can't win them all. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we learn that, and we get rid of those people that don't like us. It's
but
like, who
I would
cares?
think that a diplomat or somebody who is in a political stage would actually make that attribute would be really good, only because you actually have to get votes.
It is a great attribute if it's not phony. Once it gets phony,
right?
People like me.
But if they're but you had mentioned that their whole directive or what they have in their head is the equilibrium or the connection of some sort, right? So if their motive is peacemaking or compromising on both sides, then people pleasing is actually something that has to be done in order for two sides to meet. Right, so it's really what's driving that is really the big thing. But I see what you're saying.
It can be very positive if you've ever gone to a mediator in court, or if you ever had a counselor, or in school, a guidance counselor. I mean, they're like, oh, you got a problem with this one, whatever, let me come in the middle. But it can go too far too. You know, Libra is, even though, and I've done videos on Libra's a great sign. They're known to be very balanced, whatever, but it is one sign that can totally get off balance easy. And they can swing also from extremes, because in their life, they think that's kind of like a balance, you know what I mean?
Okay.
They're very different from Scorpio, because Scorpio Moon is not at all a people pleaser.
Oh, okay.
Scorpio Moon is very much, and again, we talk about, and this is one of the interesting things when we talk about our early life, you know, whatever kind of people we meet. The Scorpio Moon is considered in its fall, which is not good in the West, and it's one of the more difficult placements to have the moon, because, you know, they're known as being paranoid, they're known as being suspicious, everybody's got some nefarious motive. Here's the deal: they have met a lot of people that do have bad motives, and so they tend to look at the world in a more suspicious way.
Well, if you see everybody as a hammer, you'll see yourself as a nail, right? So, and if you again, it has to go back to perception, because they're not the only ones that are meeting all of these people, but they're finding this in everyone, right? So are they just good at,
very good, very
so
good
in other
point.
words, they're good at seeing those kind of things?
It is
It's
a very intuitive
So they're
sign.
actually seeing these traits in them, because I mean, I'm sure I meet a lot of people that have bad motives, maybe, and I just walk by them if I don't know any better, right? But maybe this guy also has, the person that is built, or, you know, born under that sign would have that kind of perception, and or are they reading into things because they're uber critical that are not there?
It's almost like you're talking to me.
I'm so sorry. You know what? This is a psychiatrist.
What happens is you will naturally attract a certain type to you, and it's just the way it is.
Well, that's a law of attraction.
But the discernment that every sign, whether it's Aries all the way to Pisces, the last sign, is you got to be able to read them. You know what I mean? I am naturally a suspicious person,
right?
But that's because I've met some nasty people in my life.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and I hate to say it personally, but we're going to do personal. Like, have you ever been completely dead wrong about somebody? You thought oh, really?
No, and I'm going to...
Oh, my gosh, she's always right. There we go.
No, because sometimes I'll get a feeling about, like, when I meet somebody, I'm not into them, right? And then I second guess it, because I don't want to be a bad person. And I'm like, let me give them a chance. And then they end up screwing me over. So then I'm like, no, I was right. So you got to, your first intuition. Right. You know what I mean? Your first intuition.
Right.
But I can, especially Mercury's been retrograde, I can misread people, and I can be like, oh, maybe they didn't mean it like that. I might take it a certain way.
Okay.
I can misread, but I'm still on edge because, listen, I had a business in metaphysics for 16 years. You think I didn't deal with some crazy people for those 16 years? I'm super guarded now.
Right.
So it's like...
But see, all those instances where you had really bad things, do you see people and then see certain traits of what you saw before, and you go, oh, I bet you this guy...
Yeah, I do. It's recognizing patterns.
Okay.
It's analytical.
Do you think it serves you?
Yeah, I do.
It serves you well.
Yeah, it's an intuition.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Whatever.
It's intuition.
Okay.
Intuition and logic together.
You're extremely perceptive. I know that you are.
Yeah.
It's very curious to see how it all kind of works, because I know perception is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an expression, perception is reality.
Listen, actions speak louder than words, right? So if somebody can talk to me a certain way and they're like, okay, like I'm going to look at how they're treating me. Are they going out of their way to be a good person? Are they whatever? If I don't see the actions, then to me,
I agree.
and I'll just say, in the West, I have a Scorpio moon, but in the East, I have a Libra moon. But here's the deal. Yeah. In the East, it's more predictive. In the West, we're psychological. So I'm looking at West as, okay, this is the personality of this person. In the East, I'm looking at the dashas and, what nakshatra is affecting what house, whatever, during certain times in their life. And that's the difference between the two. So Libra, and listen, I know a lot of Libra sons who act like Scorpios, and I've known them my whole life. I'm close with them. And then I'll look at their charts and they got Mercury in Scorpio, because Mercury's either in your sign 2 signs after or 2 signs before. And they act more like a Scorpio than me, because I don't have Mercury in Scorpio. I have Mercury in Libra. So to me, I'm very open with people, but I'm quick to cut people off because of, that intuition.
And can they channel this? I mean, I know we're going back to Virgo, but like anybody born in a certain disposition, can they channel that into, like, for instance, we talked about the Virgo being hypercritical, or, critical of themselves and others. Can they put that into a point where they're actually working scientifically, and they're so incredibly particular in everything? I mean, when we think about science and we think about medicine, we want people that are like that.
That's what I was saying in the video.
So,
like you want a dentist or a doctor who's got a strong Virgo, because you don't want somebody you don't want some big picture person.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? We'll be like, yeah, that's good enough. That's enough. Your tooth is kind of crowned. That'll do.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's good. But they, you know, and good dentists have very good attention to detail. We all know that. Good doctors do too. They look at everything, and that's great. What they got to guard against is being too critical of themselves or others. Libra,
and keeping it in check.
Right.
Really
Libra's got to guard against. I think it's great being a peacemaker. I think that's great. But if you're, sometimes I know peacemakers who are so extreme that they start hating other people. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're fighting for a cause, let's say a political cause, and I get it, that's great. But then you start hating the other side so much. You're no longer a peacemaker. Now you're a problem. You know what I mean? You know, Scorpio don't even mess around with that stuff, you know? And that's why they have this dark, brooding reputation, you know, because they're like, I don't like somebody, I like them, period. Boom. I'm not even trying anymore. You know, Libra's air. So they're thinkers. They're like Aquarius and Gemini.
So they're born in that moon, right? And they have a predisposition. And they can develop it or subdue it, but depending on how destructive.
Absolutely. We always have free will, especially in the West.
So we can actually, but ultimately, I mean, what was it? Who was it that wrote that song that says "Changes upon changes, we are basically the same"? Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, okay.
So
Can you sing it?
No, I'm not going to sing it. I'm going to spare everyone in that. Anyway, but my point is that so let me ask you this. So they subdue that kind of thing because they view it as self-destructive or destructive to relationships, or for whatever reason, they are, you know, we talked about it like environmental, like being brought up in a certain way where, say you were in a staunch religious home and any signs of emotion or self-expression were pushed down and suppressed, they would never really feel right, to be able to express who they actually were, right?
This is why knowledge is really power, and I believe in continuing to learn until our last day. You know, whether it's religion, different religions, metaphysics, numerology, astrology, psychology. We're not really supposed to just be like, oh, this is it. You know what I mean? Like I am who I am. We can all always improve. You know, so I'm a teacher. You know, a certified teacher. So to me, it's continuous education. It's continuous learning. You know, it's continuously trying to get better and figure out where you're going wrong, where you're going right. And I think we were born with natural dispositions. And I think early stuff. You know, sometimes it's just one person in your family that, you know, kind of colors that or whatever, that makes you a little whatever that sign is.
With my children, I know that one of the things that I have, mentioned to them and talked to them as they get older, that they have to kind of have a breakaway from their parents, meaning that there's a natural state where a girl separates kind of from their mother and father. I'm not talking about like not speaking to them or anything like that.
People want independence and autonomy.
They have to experience who they are and make sure that, you know, they're going to church or doing whatever. They're doing it because they want to do it, not because of the expectation level that's there. So getting in touch with who they are as a person and developing the positive things to me would be a really good thing. But there is that natural thing. I mean, I can only apply it to my life because that's what I know. But I do know that there is that natural thing, and I've experienced it with all my children. There's almost like an emotional breakaway in their late teens, sometimes mid-teens, late teens, where you feel like there's distance. There's like a brick wall there for a while. But it's a very healthy thing for them to start being who they are as a person. You know, not that they were mean.
And they're not really grown up until 28 to 30, according to astrology, because that's the beginning of the Saturn return. So there's a lot of years there where, you know, they're kind of learning who they are.
Yeah.
But
I'm still not there yet, but I'm 56. I'm just kidding.
People's personalities are their personalities, and again, that's for a reason. You know, nothing is a mistake, even in astrology. We're here to learn certain lessons, and you know, maybe in my last life I was a complete babbling idiot who trusted everybody, but in this life I'm like, no, you know, I'm not trusting you. Like I'm the kind of person that would rather sit and watch paint dry. I just did an interview on this the other day too with a magazine that's coming out, by myself than be in bad company. I really would.
Well, yeah,
I would. I'm not. I don't have that. I mean, I have some Libra planets, but I don't have that overwhelming. Like I can be social, but I got a strong, even in the East, Venus is in Scorpio when it rules my chart.
Where is the patience level in a Virgo? I mean, are you impatient?
I don't have any Virgo, except for in the East. Virgos, I think, are pretty patient.
Oh, they
I think
are patient.
I find the earth signs in general to be pretty patient.
Oh, okay.
Because they're down to earth.
Who's the most impatient?
Aries.
Because I'm really impatient.
Yeah, you probably got some Aries going on. You're an Aquarius, so it's close enough to Aries. You might have Mercury there. We have to pull up your chart. But you're also very creative, which is Pisces too.
Well, I always feel like it's stemming from pride, my impatience, because I want things done right immediately, and it's about me, and this has to be done. But I just wondered what attribute. What is the best attribute
of Aries?
Of Aries.
They're bottom liners. I mean, they're straight to the point. I like Aries because they're not gonna like sugarcoat things. They're not gonna be like talking in riddles and stuff. Like that's just the bottom line, you know. It's good for business. I think.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure
nobody wants any like whimsical paragraphs or anything when you're trying to, it's like you just want to know what the facts are. Period.
Okay, good. I didn't mean to deviate from our.
No, it's good because this is good to talk about the different things. Maybe we could do something about the positive and negative of every sign.
Well, you were telling me that that they're really different.
Everybody's very different.
And then you would also mention in a conversation that we had out there about the cusp. Meaning like somebody born in that cusp where they have...
As you get closer to one sign, ending that you could still be,
So you can't be half and half.
Well, you'll take on traits.
You just take on traits.
Because just like when the moon goes full, we feel it a couple days before. Just like when there's a new moon, we feel it a couple days. Just like when a planet goes retrograde, Mercury retrograde, which everybody likes to talk about, there's a shadow period a week before and a week after.
Okay.
So as we go direct, we're going direct here. We're still got to be careful because we're in a shadow period. Nothing is cut and dry. It's not like, boom, it's over, or boom,
Do you have attributes of both?
You usually do because you have your sun sign, and then, like I said, Mercury, which is the way you think, and then Venus, and those two planets are either in your sun sign 2 signs before or 2 signs after.
Okay.
Like I'm on the cusp of Libra and Scorpio, but technically over in the West, 1 degree of Scorpio, but I got Mercury in Libra, I got Venus in Sagittarius. I got, and that's all people. Right. It's everybody's got like and then you look at the aspects with the moon, with Mercury, and then you look at the final expositor. So there's so much to it, but this is just, we don't want to get too complicated because
I want to get complicated.
Sometimes we'll get complicated.
So if I, and then this is just I don't know much about, only what you've taught me, which is a lot about astrology, but going into it, would you advise someone to kind of follow where the moon is and where they are in order to combat maybe or fight off some toxicity?
I'm a believer in what the Indians do in India, where they arrange marriages according to astrology. I am.
Gasp.
I am.
Okay, so you would advocate a parent setting up a
absolutely
marriage?
Because I know some people from India and it worked out, and they looked at the charts. They pull the kids' charts when they're just born, and then they grow up, and they look at this chart and they say, are these two? It's called synastry compatible, and they were. And my thing is, I don't like to waste. It's a waste. If you want to get married really bad, and I think maybe in India you're supposed to. I don't know. I've never been there, but I think that's the best way to do it, because otherwise you're just wasting time.
Well, remember they did that for centuries before. It's only in the modern history that people are married for love. But usually all that stuff was arranged. But it was usually arranged not necessarily for the stars and things like that, but it was for money or for power.
I mean, does anybody marry for love when they get older? Because people get smarter when they get older, and
that's a terrible thing. I'm old and I get. Yes, you get married for love.
Because,
you still love when you're my age, Joanna. This is terrible.
No, I'm just saying, because it feels like when you're infatuated with somebody, right? That's not really love. That goes away. Because I know.
That's not true. I can be infatuated at older age. Older people can get infatuated, but they can also love, but they love more intellectually. They love smarter. Like I told you, I can see stuff and go, like I could see a man and say, no, like just they're attractive, they've got everything going, all the good stuff, and then I see stuff and I'm like, oh no, I can just see it months from now, how bad it would be. But no, when you get older, you start to think about like love is like a young person's thing, because you can love people, but like young is like, oh, we're gonna grow up, and like, but you get older, you're like, okay, do they have a 401k? Like, what is their money like? Like that's terrible. Oh my god.
But it's true, because that's what happens. It's like your brain is like.
Well, I think but you go into it with like full open eyes, because you're smart. And you've got a whole line of history of mistakes and successes, and you know what to do. But you don't marry somebody for.
Well, no, I'm not saying be a gold digger, but I'm saying like, you know, compatible.
No, I don't.
Like
compatibility is important.
everybody thinks
I
I'm
agree
this
with that.
big like free spirit, but I do have a side that is, but I'm also very practical. Like I
Okay.
keep up with my certifications, my degrees. I make sure I pay my bills on time.
Right.
Like I'm super like
Right.
that. So like to me, I like that vibe. Like I don't want a free spirited guy. I mean, maybe a little bit fun, but
Right.
like I don't want somebody who's all like, oh, let's
No,
just
you
do
want somebody-
Ernal Day or
You want
something.
somebody who's grounded.
Yeah,
right?
which
So-
means
which-
practical, which is part of being on earth. So
Right.
to me, like if we're here on earth, our souls, it's spiritual to be earthy to me because this is what we're supposed to be learning.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to be into earthy things like finances and stuff like that. Now, when somebody's 20, they're not thinking like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true,
so
true.
it's like you get more like
Yeah.
that as you get older.
Well, yeah, you're driven by a lot of hormones and
Yeah.
emotion, and you fantasize and you think, oh, this person is that.
Right.
You build up this whole person in your head,
And then
that
you
doesn't
grow up,
exist,
and then you grow a brain.
and then you start walking and you get hit with a brick wall and go, oh, I get it.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you realize, you know.
Yeah. No, you're right,
Like-
and I don't advocate getting married too young because you're right. I mean, that's
And it's just you gotta. I don't know. To me, it's like, yeah. Ideally, if we lived in an ideal world, which we don't, everybody would marry for love and everybody would live happily ever after. But I hear,
Yeah,
and
true.
working as a psychic and astrologer, I've heard too many stories of both men and women where somebody's been taken for everything when they got a divorce or whatever.
Yeah.
And so to me, in my head,
Yeah.
I'm like gonna be careful about everything I do. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No, I agree,
Like,
I agree.
Yeah, like
No,
I said,
well,
I'd rather
I
watch
think it's
paint dry
smart.
than be with somebody that's gonna
Right,
like, you know.
right.
So that's just the way it is.
No,
Anyway,
I agree.
we gotta
Yeah.
probably shut this down because
Oh,
we're just
but
going.
I'm
to-
having such a good
I
time.
know. So you guys
Yeah.
can check us out on Radio St. Pete. We're also going to come back and do another one on the difference between Sagittarius moon and Capricorn, and then we're going to do a whole bunch of astrology stuff. And also, Heather, what's the name of the YouTube channel we started putting stuff up?
Oh, it's unedited,
Okay.
and that's where we're going to put all our, in addition to this.
Yeah,
one as well,
all our
we're
other
gonna put
stuff,
that.
but we do have
It's
our.
called unedited because it is unedited, and
Yeah.
it's going to be natural. It's going to be really the whole idea between it. And Joanna and I had a lot of conversations regarding this, that we just want it to be where we're sitting around and we're having a conversation. It's very relaxed, what you would expect having coffee or tea at a Panera, and you're talking to your girlfriends, and this is what we're shooting for.
Yeah, we just like to
So,
talk to interesting people.
We like to talk to interesting people. Right now,
We love
she's the only
astrology.
interesting person we have, so she's the one on the air. But,
So, anyways, all right, you guys have a great weekend,
Thanks for
and
joining.
we'll see you later.
bye, guys.